We're live.
Okay, we are live. How are you doing today? I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to make it today. We've been in a huge, massive heat wave for the last week, and it's been really difficult. We didn't have hydro last night, so I was not sure that I was even going to be able to make it today, but we had rain, we had a storm that came through, we got some glorious rain, cooler weather, and now we have sunshine again, but at least we have hydro. So great to have you here. We're going to chat today about how to make progress with your horse, even if your horse is spooky, right? So maybe you're wanting just a trusting relationship between your horse and you, right? You just want it to be that you don't have to worry. You can trust your horse and your horse can trust you. Or maybe what you're looking to do is perform lateral movements that are flowing and easy and beautiful to watch and to feel as a rider, but there's something missing and you can't get to the place where you can progress to that higher level. And maybe you want to just understand why your horse is spooking in the first place, so you can at least have a pleasurable ride. If this is you, if any of those describe you, then you're in the right place. This is for you. So, hi, my name is Chris Adderson, and I'm the founder of the Harmony for the Horse Riders program. And if you're on the replay here, let me know where you're coming from. Let me know how your horse spooks. What is it that your horse does when your horse spooks? And how does that affect you? Just put a note for me below. And if you're on live too, let me know where you're coming from and how your ride with your horse has gone today. So I will be checking my comments. First of all, I want to give you some help right off the top here. And that is that if the anxiety in your horse, the anxious behavior that your horse is experiencing, causes you as the rider to have extreme anxiety, so that you might want to change things in your life, like maybe you feel like you want to quit with your horse, or you want to get another horse, or you want to make huge changes, like not go in a certain place because you know that's spooky for your horse, or you want to not ride on the beach with your friends perhaps, or what you're doing is you're changing the way you live, and the way you're changing it is you're lessening your options, so you're making your life smaller all the time. If this is happening to you because your horse is anxious, then put a note for me below and I will refer you to another free training that I've done, or someone that I'm working with will help you to find that free training. Because when you start to make your life smaller and smaller, because there's so much anxiety within you because you're dealing with an anxious horse, then you need to really look at yourself in a deep way. And that other training that I'm talking about, I can refer you to that. It's a free training that I've done. You can, if you're in my free group, you could just scroll through the trainings and find it. I did it fairly recently. All right. So now, as much in life, right? When we're dealing with life, it's not the spookiness or the anxiety that really matters. It's what you do with it, right? And if it's at a place where you can get curious enough to explore what to do with the anxiety, that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, so let's talk about what to do with the anxiety and 3 steps that you can take to still make progress with your horse, even if there's anxiety there, even if your horse is spooky. All right, so the first thing to do is to tune into your horse, and to tune into your horse on a very deep level. A lot of people, they'll say, oh, my horse is spooking and it doesn't mean anything. The horse is just trying to give me a hard time, right? Horses, when they're spooky, when they are scared, they have a reason. Yes, they have a reason for being that way. They need to be that way. And they're perceiving something that we possibly are not. they have much more attunement to their environment, and their senses are much more aware than we are. So for us to make the conclusion that there's being silly is not listening to our horse, is not tuning into our horse, right? So your horse has a reason for showing you this kind of behavior. It's not something to be ignored. It's not something to be passed up. It's something for us to really pay attention to. Okay? So when you acknowledge what your horse is saying to you, this is what you might do. You might say, okay, I feel that you're anxious. I know that you're anxious, right? And maybe you're not even sure what your horse is anxious about. But the fact that you're acknowledging it, and you can acknowledge it with your thoughts, which will then go into your emotions, which then will be the energy that your horse receives. Just by acknowledging it and saying, okay, I know that you're anxious. Maybe I don't know what it is. And what you're hearing, what you're sensing, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, I acknowledge that. But maybe let's go check it out together, right? If this is safe for you to do, right? Let's go check it out. Say if your horse is spooking at the door in the indoor, going past the door all the time, there's a spooky spot. Acknowledge it and then say, but let's go check it out and ride right over to there. Or lead your horse over to there. So you're acknowledging it. You're having the energetic presence that it's there. Your horse picks up on that. He understands that. And then you're going to approach it. All right. You're going to check it out. The more times you can do this, and maybe you can't get close to it, that's totally fine. But the more times you can actually acknowledge that this is going on and tune into your horse on this level with your thoughts. Maybe you verbalize it with your words if you want to, if that helps you. The more your horse will know that he or she is being heard, okay? And then the more your horse will be not afraid to speak up. And this is what we want. We want our horse to be very attuned to us so that they feel comfortable speaking up, so that we can then listen and we can act in accordance to that. Then you can resolve the issue together. All right? On the flip side, because I also deal with a lot of students with their horses who are desensitized, right? They've maybe been sacked out in the past, or they've been, tied to a post and been, desensitized, or whatever it is. And the horse then decides to shut down. The horse decides to turn off, decides that there's no sense speaking up, there's no sense expressing what they're feeling because they're not listened to. But underneath, there is still that spookiness, that still anxiousness, because it's not been solved. Maybe your horse is all right with plastic bags, but the horse is not in a conversation with you. And therefore, your horse is not going to build more of a bond, more of a relationship at all. And I want to just give you an example of this. So this is a student that we had in our program, and her horse was always unpredictable. This was her biggest issue with her horse, was the unpredictableness of it. And this was really disconcerting for her. Some days it was okay. Some days it was not okay. Some days her horse would be spooky. Some days her horse would want to be with her. Other days not. It would totally just turn and walk the other way. Depended on the weather too. Some days if the weather was windy, that was absolutely not going to work. So she was really connected to her horse, though. She was really attuned to her horse and very connected. And let me know if this is you. Let me know if this is you. If you're very connected to your horse, but there's still something missing. There's something missing that you can't put your finger on. So our student, put a note for me below. So our student, she was very connected to her horse. She wouldn't push anything beyond limits, right? She could read the horse very well. And she was suffering though. She was struggling and she knew her horse was. So what we did in our program is we worked with her first in areas of her life that were suffering, right? Her relationship with her partner, her work that she so loves so much, and she worked so hard for 20 years of her life to get to the place where she was in her work, and then realized that's not where she wanted to be, so quit and did something else. We worked on all those other things in her life that were causing her anxiety and stress. And as we helped her with this work, as we helped her with herself, pretty soon her horse started to come to her more, right? Her horse didn't have these strange lamenesses that would show up once in a while. Our horse was actually looking to play with her and asking her to do work and not shut off, and was a lot less spooky. And when there was a spooky thing or something that was alarming to her horse would turn to her. When he felt insecure, he would turn to her for advice. All right, so that's where we want to be, isn't it? That's where we want to be, where we have the relationship and we have the conversation happening as well. So let me know if this is something that you would like to experience with your horse. And I see people here jumping on. If you're jumping on for the first time and we've never met, welcome. And if you'd like to ask questions or join in the discussion, feel free to leave notes for me below, because I always answer here. If I miss them here, I'll come in after and answer your questions. All right, so the second point that I want to talk about, we've talked about the first step, which is to tune into your horse, and a process of how you might do that. And the second step is to know that anxiety has layers. Okay, so it's not all of a sudden that this is going to show up. There are layers behind it, right? An anxious horse always has layers of anxiety. So what we need to do is get to the root of the worry, get to the root of the problem. And a lot of what we do in our program is we work with dysfunctional movement, right? And the layers that are in, or the levels that are in that dysfunctional movement. And so let me explain. So, and this is relating to another student in our program too, and you might be able to resonate with this. She had a horse who was blocking and bracing and tight and had a stiff spot in the upper part of the neck. And this was causing the horse a lot of anxiety, because there's pain related with that. And along with the pain, there's the emotional strain on the body, right? And so she didn't realize that this was happening within her horse, but we took her within our program, we took her through our process, and we found this out and helped her to overcome with this with her horse. But this was a dysfunctional pattern that had been happening for a long time. And it was the root of the nervousness within her horse. Because whenever she would ask her horse to turn or ask her horse to do lateral work, there was this pull within the horse's body that would cause the nervousness to start to, and the spookiness to start to escalate. Okay, so that's one level of the anxiousness being related to dysfunctional movement. The other layer, the other level, is when it's long-term, right? When there's chronic dysfunction, right? Maybe in the base of the neck, maybe in the thoracic vertebrae, maybe the horse is moving this way dysfunctionally and has been for a long period of time. Maybe there's one shoulder that's being weighted, being used more. Whatever the situation is, there's going to be pain there, or there's going to be some stiffness there. And so this is what we work on in our program as well, is helping you to find out where that is within your horse so that you can relieve that. And then that will help with the spookiness, because if there's no pain, if there's no stuckness, if there's no compensations, or not none, but less, fewer, if you're helping your horse always to get on the path to functional, proper, normal movement, then there's a lot less anxiety within your horse. And sometimes, and this is another level, another layer that you might experience of anxiety, is you may have like a large spook that seems to come out of nowhere, or your horse like turns, spins around, or maybe wants to jump sideways. These large spooks can have these layers to them, right? It doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's the layers within the movement of your horse. And I'm not talking, of course you need to accustom your horse to going to different places or different situations. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the layers that are there, that are underneath the tension, that are underneath the desire to spook, that are underneath the desire for the horse, or the need for the horse to reorient their body, say in lead changes. If your horse is not balanced, they need to maybe do that, or they become spooky because they're not comfortable within their body. And so they need to do that to align themselves so that they can perform what you're asking. Let me know if that resonates with you. And I see Maria says, hello, so interesting, this topic. And all you're explaining is the truth. I can live this with my horse. Yeah, you're right, Maria. If we don't realize that this is happening within our horses, then how can we possibly help them to be less anxious? So once we realize that this is happening, we have a way to solve problems, don't we? That's okay, Maria. Sorry for my English. That's totally fine. I understand you. I think I understand you. Let me know if I am understanding correctly. All right, so if you want to get notifications of when I go live, you can click the three buttons, the three dots up in the corner, and you'll get a drop-down arrow. Check that you want to receive notifications, and you'll get notifications when I get live. Otherwise, you can click on the bell icon, and then that will give you notifications as well. All right, so we've talked about 2 of the steps to help you with a horse that's spooky. Even though you still want to make progress, these are the 2 steps we're wanting to talk about. Let's go on to the third one. And this is the last one, but it's not the least one by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the least one. And that is the normal movement patterns for yourself as a rider, or doing in-hand work, or lunging your horse, whatever it is. A lot of students come to me experiencing pain when they ride, or pain in life in general. And having been through a major spinal injury myself, and having recovered from that, I understand completely what it's like to be incapacitated. In fact, I was so incapacitated. I was in the place where I was a paraplegic, right? I could barely feed myself. My husband had to look after me for an entire year. I definitely couldn't be with my horses. And I did a lot of healing, both mentally, emotionally, and physically at that time in my life. So I totally understand what it's like to have pain when you ride, to have sciatica perhaps when you ride, to have lower back pain, lumbar pain, to have shoulder pain. These things are all very real. Unfortunately, though, not many riders will actually get to experience what I'm talking about here, which is their own true movement pattern within their bodies that is affected for their body, because it's just not taught to riders. And it's unfortunate, but it's just not taught. And I want to tell you about a student in our program who was experiencing that. And she had pain like every day, all day, in all of her pursuits. And she did yoga, she did cycling, she did skiing, canoeing, all kinds of things. But she always had pain. Well, she came into our program and did the first 3 weeks of our program and found her own true effective movement pattern, which is normal, by the way. I mean, we all deal with things happening in our life, and our bodies adapt, but it becomes dysfunctional. And when she did the first 3 weeks of our program, she found her functional way to move. And she was able then to not only ride her horse, but ride her horse better. And her horse was able to hear her more clearly. And her horse was able to then respond, and then they could progress further. So with this pain that we experience as riders and this dysfunctional movement in our own bodies, that can cause our horses to be anxious. That can cause our horses to spook. Because if what we're saying through our bodies when we're riding, for example, is not clear to them, and there's these hidden dysfunctions, that can cause issues. All right? So let me know if that resonates with you. Maria says, happy face and smile. That's great. Glad I could help you, Maria, and glad that makes sense to you, and glad you could take something away from this. So let me know what you're taking away. What's your biggest aha from this training today? Put a note for me below, and I'll check my messages. If you have pain or you have dysfunctional movement within your body, there is a solution. There is a way to get around that. I mean, I'm not talking about severe injuries, although that's what I experienced myself, and that's what I went through the process of healing myself. It is possible. But sometimes we don't realize we have these dysfunctional movements because it becomes the new norm, but it's not normal for what our bodies need to be optimal. All right, so if there's anything here that you resonate with and you would like support with, then you will see a link somewhere on this screen or around this video where you can go to and get support from us. Find out if we can help you in our program. It's helped many other riders, so I'm pretty sure it'll help you. So you can find that link and click on that link, and we can chat and see how it can help you. All right, so if you have any questions, if you're on the replay, feel free to put questions in. Let me know what your ahas are from this training, and let me know what further trainings you would like, because as I said, we're in a heat wave this last week. I haven't been able to ride my horse. It's been so hot. But what I've done is I've spent a lot of time writing content for you and writing trainings for you. So I'd sure love to have some feedback as what it is that can help you the most. All right, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.